think we're interested in working large projects. So high impact projects has kind of been our focus from the beginning. And we didn't come up with the saying, but it's just as hard to raise $10 million as it is $100 million.
Yeah.
So if you're going to work on projects, work on big projects, work on high impact projects, and so that's kind of where we're focusing our time right now.
Welcome to an episode of Strategic Conversations. We host insightful discussions with top business leaders and top business minds. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are hosting Mr. Alex Tiller, the president and founder of CarbonVert, a company that is making waves in the decarbonization space. Mr. Tiller will be a speaker at the Houston Strategy Forum's upcoming fourth semi-annual Carbon Hydrogen Symposium. We're excited to host him. I am Ravi Kathuria, the president of the Houston Strategy Forum and author of the management and leadership book, How Cohesive is Your Company, and author of Happy Soul, Hungry Mind. Strategic Conversations are hosted by the Houston Strategy Forum. If you value these conversations, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the Houston Strategy Forum's YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by Cohegic, the management consulting and executive coaching firm. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to a great discussion with Mr. Tiller. Alex, thank you for being part of the November 29th Carbon Hydrogen Symposium. We're excited. And thank you for taking the time to participate in this strategic conversation today. We appreciate it, Alex.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure. So, Alex, you've been making waves. You're signing up some leading projects, showing the way on how it needs to be done. Tell us about, as you have, when we started, I say started, but in the last 2 or 3 years, the intense focus on climate change projects and decarbonization projects has come into place. As 3 years have gone by and you look at it, and I'm talking about the beginning of the pandemic, where do you see now are the best places to make the bet, right? So obviously you are doing some big projects. What have you learned? Sure. Where is your focus? What excites you? Where do you see tremendous potential?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I mean, I think the short answer is that there's still a ton of opportunity kind of throughout America. It's a very big country.
Yes.
We know our subsurface well, so CO2 storage is something that's needed throughout the country. We have emissions spread all across the country. Doesn't work everywhere, but to date, CarbonVert has focused most of its time in the Gulf of Mexico. That being said, we're not limited to looking at the Gulf of Mexico. We're certainly starting to kind of open our aperture, if you will, and look a little bit more broadly to other parts of the country. I think that to put a single pin in a single spot and say we're going to just work one project, that's fine, and that can be a winning strategy. I think we've decided to take a little bit broader of a strategy. The other thing that I would say is, I think we're interested in working large projects. So high impact projects has kind of been our focus from the beginning. And we didn't come up with the saying, but it's just as hard to raise $10 million as it is $100 million. Yeah. So if you're going to work on projects, work on big projects, work on high impact projects, and so that's kind of where we're focusing our time right now.
And define to you, what is a big project? What is that?
Well, I mean, capture projects, capture, transport, and store. You kind of have to have all three.
Yes.
Components, and so easily a capture island on certain projects can cost $1 billion.
Yes.
And transport and store can get up there depending on the size of the project that you're working. And how long the pipeline is. We don't love long pipelines. We've always kind of shied away from long pipelines, and so we've focused more on kind of large storage pore space leases in close proximity. And so I would anticipate um, those types of projects, probably hundreds of millions, and possibly in some cases approaching $1 billion.
Okay, so projects that are 100 million to $1 billion plus in capital investment, and then in terms of CO2 sequestered, how much CO2 sequestered space or capacity are you looking at? How do you, or does that matter? I guess you know
It matters. Yeah,
yes,
it matters. I mean that
in terms of
the size of the storage is important because ultimately it scales your project. And so our project in Corpus Christi that we've partnered with Repsol on, and recently Mitsui and POSCO joined us. That project can store 20 million tons per year. So it's a mega scale hub class CO2 storage project. The vast majority of the projects that exist in the world today are only like 1 million tons a year of CO2 storage taking place. And so, we think that there's a good opportunity, especially with a handful of the right projects at the right place, to do large impact projects. We also have a project in Cameron Parish, Louisiana, that can do 8 to 9 million tons a year of CO2 storage. And so that's one of our I'd call that kind of a middle level. And that being said, we're not limited strictly to offshore projects. We're not only looking in the Gulf of Mexico. So we may end up doing some smaller projects, but we like projects with multiple emitters, and there's certainly kind of a break even at least 1 million tons, but we probably should be spending our time and energy on bigger projects than that.
very good. And how many years of storage capacity? So you said the Corpus Christi one could do 20 million.
Yeah, I mean, these projects are generally 25 to 30 year projects. So
before the reservoir is full or
before it kind of hits its max capacity. Some of these are ultimately infinitely expandable if you can pick up the pore space. It's one of these things where you should know your neighbors, and you should know where you think that that plume is going to grow over time, and maybe get ahead of it. You don't necessarily need to pick up all that pore space right away, but ideally in 30 years, you don't just turn it off. You expand it and you grow it over time.
Okay. So you can keep expanding the acreage, and then you can sequester more in that same facility.
It could be the same formation. It could be 20 miles to the east or west or what have you. We'll work kind of each one of those projects. But the good news is the U.S. has great CO2 storage capacity. Gulf of Mexico, where our current projects are, does as well. And so we see that as a path that, once we build this infrastructure, it's ultimately scalable and you can grow it over time.
And are sites still available? Is acreage still available? I was hearing that there was a gold rush, and prices were rising. And so where does that stand? Where is the market for that? Has it stabilized? Is it still a lot of competition?
I wouldn't call it stabilized. There was definitely some rapid escalation in lease rates. I don't know that it's finished. I do think that there'll kind of be a period of time, just like anything else, where people kind of rush out and lease up a bunch of acreage and then can't put together the projects, and some of those will probably return back to the market. And so it's more about just leasing. Just leasing acreage isn't going to get you there. You have to actually put together the project to put on top of it and be able to get the emissions to that pore space. And so I see this as, this is a business that's going to play out over the next couple of decades. And so there'll be cycles that you see where people will be euphoric and run into things and bid up rates, and then people kind of course correct and you'll get other bites at that apple in the future potentially.
But is that a cause for concern for you, or do you think that for your projects, especially the big projects, now you're looking at other parts in the country, but on the Gulf of Mexico, do you ever worry about not finding enough acreage, or you think the partners that you will associate with already have the acreage, so that ultimately you have to be able to sequester in large quantities for your big projects?
Yeah. Well, I guess a little bit of this is a philosophical question. We don't believe that we should be the only company to store all the CO2 in the world. There will be other projects and other entities that'll have the pore space in certain areas, and that's perfectly fine as long as the projects are going and economically viable and reliable and dependable and cost effective, right? So I don't think there's an inherent flaw here that we need to be concerned about. We're happy with the projects we have at the pricing that we've managed to achieve. We'll continue to look in other areas, and we may avoid some concentration risk, geography, particular emitter type, particular regions, and so forth. So we like to have a diversified portfolio, and we'll continue to play into that strategy.
And there are many players developing in this field. What makes Carbonvert or your approach special or different? And really what I'm interested in is, how do you make sure that your success ratio are you thinking about this differently? Is your experience different that will make sure your success ratio is higher, right? I'd like everybody to be successful, but it's important to know what those critical success factors are, and how are you focusing on them?
Well, so we've kind of built our team around this strategy of having deep expertise in the key friction points of what it takes to make any project successful. So whether that's Class 6 permitting, tax equity financing, project delivery, there's various key friction points, and it's been our business from the beginning to be really good at the hard stuff. We don't have any desire to reproduce all the E&P capabilities out there. We don't need to have all the engineers. We partner with the right businesses to deliver the right project at the right time, at the right price. And then we try to have some discipline. I think we do have discipline around what we choose to invest in. Is it something that is surmountable, something that we can overcome the challenges within the unique project? And if we don't have that right mix, we go out and bring in the appropriate partner to do that, or we kill the project, or at least put it on hold until something changes in the market. Maybe capture costs come down, or other things can happen in a market to kind of reactivate projects. So just being really nimble with the projects and focused on what those friction points are is our key philosophy.
Oh, wonderful. Alex, you're one of the entrepreneur pioneers in the space, leading companies. And so this is a question that perhaps you can answer. We talked about your Corpus Christi project, 20 million tons a year, your Louisiana project, about 10 million tons a year. The world is putting out, I hope my figures are right, somewhere in the range of 36 to 40 billion tons of CO2 every year.
Yeah.
Right. And all the projects combined, that are on the drawing boards that could get approved, even all of them combined, right? Even the wishful projects, some of them will not succeed. We know some projects failed, some have failed recently, right? Even when we combine all of those, it is still a fraction of. So what can I do to have Alex Stiller and Carbonvert scale up, not 1,000 times, but 10,000 times? How do you do? What needs to happen there? What needs to happen? And is it you have an intricate knowledge of these projects, how complex they are, how much time it takes. How do I go about solving the climate crisis, and while making
Yeah.
sure that the energy crisis is also addressed?
It's a tricky question. Again, I don't think CarbonVert can be the sole delivery mechanism of this. We certainly want to do our part, and by working on these early projects and taking some of that early risk, and trying to build a team that can deal with that. We're hopeful that we're creating a path that other people can replicate and learn from. I think that our recent sale out of the Bayou Bend CCS project in Port Arthur, Texas, so Jefferson and Chambers County, Texas, is a good example of one that we kind of got started with our partners, Talos Energy, but ultimately, Equinor purchased our position in that project, and that's great. They're a fantastic CCS operator in other parts of the country. They've done some of the fundamental work to offshore storage, and so I think that's the answer, right? The answer is some people have to start projects, some people have to kind of nurture them up, some people are going to come in at different parts and grow them and expand them and deliver them, and so it's going to take a full community of active participants in order to really scale this industry. We just need to know where we live right now, and we're in the first inning of the baseball game, right? Of a 9-inning game, and I'm not even sure if actually the first inning has started.
Yes,
we
yes.
might just
maybe
be
the
warming
first
up
pitch
right
has
now.
been thrown.
Yeah,
or the pre-game pitch, really, if you're yes.
That could be it. That could be it.
Yes.
We're singing the national anthem right now.
That's right. that is true. There are so many questions that are coming through my mind. I guess we could take even just this short duration strategic conversation and convert into a 2-hour session. But what I'm going to do is save that for November 29th, where we host you and several
Great.
other prominent speakers and have a whirlwind of a discussion, a powerful discussion. Hope everybody who's watching this video will join us November 29th at the Houston Strategy Forum's Carbon Hydrogen Symposium. Alex, one quick short question. What is it that you want to highlight on November 29th? What will be your message to the world?
I think that the good news is that there is a path here. The technology is known, the incentive structures and kind of the revenue model is in place. The organizations with the capabilities to deliver these projects exist. We can do this. I think that it will take a slightly more creative and collegial approach here to bringing together the right partners in the right places to activate these projects and really build the capabilities that we need to execute these projects. It's all there. We just need to kind of work together, and hopefully we can have a conversation around partnership and how to get these projects off the ground.
Wonderful, sir. We are looking forward to hosting you in 2 weeks and few days. Excited. Thank you so much. Thank you for recording.
Thanks, Ravi. I look forward to it.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See you there.